I think FC25 might be the most important FC FIFA game ever made. All right, so I'm gearing up for a live stream and I was going through some of the FC26 news. Everyone is very optimistic about FC26 and what's on the way, me included. But I think as we look back at previous FCs and previous FIFAs, I think we need to look at FC25 and simply say, thank you. I think FC25 might be the most important FC FIFA game ever made because I think it's finally the one that gave us the dopamine overdose that we had to have for FC26 to happen. Hear me out. So in FC25, it literally felt like you could never keep up. I play the game quite a bit, not nearly as much as I used to, but every time I logged on, almost all of my players were irrelevant unless I was just emotionally attached. But from a meta perspective, week to week, players just became irrelevant. Now, this is mainly due to EA releasing promo after promo after promo nonstop, but it's also probably mainly due to the fact that the majority of the community wants to know what the next promo after promo after promo is going to be. What's the next team? What's the next player? What's the next Evo? So I got to thinking as I was drinking my morning caffeine, and I started comparing it to the idea of this dopamine overdose to caffeine. What happens when you've had your first ever energy drink or your first ever cup of coffee, right? There's euphoria, there's happiness, there's all sorts of good feelings, intense focus, that sort of thing. And then what happens over time? Well, you have more caffeine the next day. And then weeks later, maybe you need a touch more. And then years later, you're essentially just drinking your energy drink or your coffee to survive. And you've almost completely lost that euphoric type of feeling. So naturally, what do? You take a break and you maybe go for a full week with no caffeine because you clearly it's not helping you anymore. You're just essentially doing it out of habit, taste, and you go through withdrawals. So that first day, no caffeine, maybe you're a little tired, maybe day one, day two, the headache starts to set in, and then you start to wean yourself off caffeine for that week. And then when you jump back onto the caffeine a week later, guess what's returned? That euphoria, that caffeinated feel, that sort of thing. That's what's happening with FIFA and with FC26. For everybody in the community, you better get ready for the withdrawal symptoms. And what I mean by that is they said specifically they're going to slow down the power curve. The only way to slow down the power curve is if they're going to reduce the amount of promos. And what that means is that those initial gold cards, if they last 2 months, 3 months into the cycle, and we're not getting that constant feed of dopamine and promos, we might accidentally think FC26 isn't as good of a game as what we're all hoping it is. Now, it would be a shame if the lack of promos and the lack of dopamine hits hitting us in the face every 5 seconds overshadowed all of the potential improvements that EA is going to make in FC26 for gameplay, because that's what it needs. We all know the gameplay needs to be better, but I think our human gambling addict type of community that we have may think less promos, bad game, instead of every card meaning a little bit more, every promo meaning a lot more, and then the gameplay being so much better that you feel like you can actually compete and you can actually use those players that are going to last longer to earn those rewards that matter more. So what I'm saying is I'm really worried that people are going to think that because they slowed down on the promos, the game is somehow not as good. And I really hope that the community can embrace the idea of like slow is smooth, smooth is fast, right? So, we're going to get our initial release and we're going to be excited about building our teams, and maybe that first promo doesn't come for a while. Maybe we just get an 84 rated gold card and we're excited about it and it means a lot because it's a rarer card. And we get to use it for a couple weeks before it feels like it's useless. And here's the thing is I actually got curious and I consulted with my favorite assistant, ChatGPT, and I went ahead and did a search. Now, I'm not sure exactly how accurate this is, but I just was kind of curious about how overloaded on the dopamine side of things we got with EA. because I started playing Ultimate Team back in 17. Played FIFA forever before that, but Ultimate Team I jumped in FIFA 17 towards the end. So I went ahead and asked ChatGPT. I told it that it was an expert in marketing and development for EA Sports, and then I asked it to provide me a list of promos for each FIFA and FC game cycle. And the reason why I did that is because I have it in my head that there were a lot less and now there's a lot more. And I wanted to see exactly how crazy it got, how much more caffeine we needed over time, right? So back in FIFA 17, they listed some of these key promotions, but the thing I'm most interested in is just how many. So they're listing 8 to 9 distinct FUT promo campaigns for FIFA 17. Scroll down to FIFA 18, they list some, and they say FIFA 18 had approximately 8 main Ultimate Team promotions. Okay, so very similar. Let's get to 19, 21, and 22. So 18 had about 8. 19 introduced 2 more, so now we're up to 10. 20 and 21 expanded promos for 2 more, so I'm calling that about 12. When we look at EA Sports FC24, we look down after they list a bunch of them. That amounts to roughly 14 to 15 major promos. So we started back at like 8, and then we jumped up and jumped up and jumped up more caffeine. We need more caffeine. We've built up a tolerance, and now we need more, and now we need more. So there's 14 or 15 for FC24, and then when we get down to FC25, had well over 18 major campaigns, adding up to 20 to 22 distinct promo events. So we went from 8 events per year when you would pack a really good card and it would be useful for quite a while because the promos were less and they were more spread out, to now we've had 20 to 22 distinct promo events. Eventually the caffeine stops working and you have to take a break. And that's what EA has realized, I hope, for FC26 when they talk about make gameplay better and slowing down the power curve. The only thing I have to warn the community about is when the game starts, try to love the game, because the lack of special cards and the lack of packs and the lack of dopamine hits and maybe the lower end rewards, that's all there to serve us in the way that our players that we have matter. And if the gameplay's fixed in that context, the game should be wildly better than most games that we've ever played, and hopefully it pulls that nostalgia back from the older games that people remember and love and talk about. So I just wanted to throw those thoughts out there. It was a funny little analogy I had about how it's like a dopamine overdose, or how we grow tolerant to caffeine. We need a little bit more as the years go on, and eventually it doesn't work. And now FIFA isn't working. FC's not working. FC25 was the game that was like, I'm not feeling anything anymore. And now that they're going to slow down the power curve, I think we're in for a little bit of a bumpy ride to start off, but it's definitely a wonderful direction to be headed in.